Hello, my cookies, and welcome. Welcome to Russell Cooks. Thanks so much for tuning in. We're doing pizza day today. I am enamored with my Brio pizza oven. So a Brio is a fire pit. It's made in Pennsylvania. Solid steel. It's pretty rugged. I love it. They came out with a pizza oven attachment that sits on top. You can have wood-fired pizzas at home. Cooks a pizza in 60 to 90 seconds if you get it hot enough and you use the right dough. I made my dough a few days ago. I let it ferment in the fridge. Today I am making pizza dough. I got this recipe. It is the 48 to 72 hour New York pizza dough recipe from the Elements of Pizza cookbook written by Ken Forkish. I made a whole bunch of pizza doughs. I really like this. This recipe uses instant yeast rather than active or fresh yeast, and that's what gives it so much hands-off time. You essentially will mix all the ingredients together, let it sit for 2 hours, but because it is instant yeast, it's instant. It starts making that nice yeasty flavor and, incorporating that air. The yeast gets to work fast, easy peasy. For the pizza dough, there are 4 ingredients: water, salt, yeast, and flour. I am going to be using King Arthur's bread flour. Now, why? Because it's readily available in supermarkets all over. Can you use a type 00 flour dough? Absolutely. It might not be in your supermarket. This most likely is. I'm also using Rapid Rise instant yeast. Any instant is fine. I'm also using fine sea salt. I typically use kosher and everything, but you want the fine sea salt. We're also going to be weighing the ingredients in grams. So I got my grams going, and I'm going to start by adding my water. My water's warmed up a little bit. Filtered water's fine. You got to use tap, but it might not be the same. Okay, so for the water, I'm doing 320 grams of water here. So I'm just slowly adding it and watching it go up. All right, so we got 320 grams of water. So I'm going to add, I've zeroed my scale, 14 grams of sea salt into the water. So I'm essentially making salty water. 14 grams. Zero the scale again. Dissolve the salt now. Whisk it around. So we've dissolved the salt in the warm water. Now it's time for the yeast. 1/4 teaspoon plus a 1/16. I know, it's a pain. If you zero the scale again, it should be 1.2 grams. My scale doesn't do the points. So I'm going to do 1/4 teaspoon. Now 1/2 Putting it in here. All right. There we go. 1/16. Now we're about to add 500 grams of our bread flour. So we're going to zero this again. And I'm doing this in my stand mixer bowl because we're going to get the dough hook. 500, yeah, baby. So I got my stand mixer fitted with my hook attachment. The other thing I like about this recipe is it makes essentially 3 pizza doughs, which is, for me, a perfect amount. You can scale this recipe. There's baker's percents if you want and whatnot. So we're going to use the dough hook, and we're going to mix for about 90 seconds. And I'm going to do this on my stir setting, which is the first one here. I'm just going to scrape down the sides a little bit. Lock it, keep going. We got about 25 more seconds left. Okay, so you do not add oil to the dough. However, I'm going to grease up the bowl that the dough goes in so it doesn't really stick. If you were using a dough tub, you probably wouldn't need oil, but I'm going to wipe away most of it. Now, preferably floured hands or wet. We're just going to take this dough off the hook gently as possible. We're going to put it in here. We're going to cover it and let it sit 2 hours, and we'll form the balls. I'm going to set that aside, let that rise up, room temp, 2 hours. Now that the pizza dough has rested for about 2 hours, it's time to cut it up, shape it into balls, get it on the fridge, and then it just chills for 2 days, up to 3 days, whenever you're ready to cook it. So this is definitely a make-ahead recipe. All right, it should have expanded by at least 50% from this point. You should absolutely smell the yeast when you take the plastic off. So I'm very gently going to get this out, very sticky on the bottom. All right. And I'm just going to kind of roll it up into a little bit of ball, like a ball. And I'm just going to cut this into thirds. I'm going to put those back in and working with one ball at a time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of like fold over, get my thumbs in there. All right. You're going to kind of get a little hole. This is how I do it. I'm sure there's going to be people out there going, oh, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. This is how I like to do it. All right. Works for me, and that's fine. So I get this going. Now, what I do is I take my thumb and I just kind of seal it right there. And you want a little flour on your hands then. Look at that. Okay, it's nice and sealed. Now with that seam side down, you can't go like this because you don't have big enough hands. I tuck the dough in and turn it. Tuck and turn. And you're going to get a nice, smooth ball on top. Look at that. Perfect. Okay? You want the seam nice and sealed up. I'm going to put a teeny bit too much flour down. Can be bad. All right? It will start to hydrate, but it won't hydrate all the way. You'll get kind of like a cakey, crackly little bit on the dough. You don't want that. But you do want a little bit of flour. The best way to flour a surface is actually go whoosh. All right? Whoosh. Nice, even coating. You can barely see it. All right? There's one. Let's get the others. Look at that. All right. Cover it, plastic, get it in the fridge. For the pizza sauce, this is incredibly easy. You need 2 ingredients. I got some whole peeled tomatoes and salt. Any salt will do. That's it. These typically come in 28-ounce cans. I found that to be a little bit too much. If you can find whole peeled in a 14.5-ounce can, perfect. I couldn't. So for this, and just open the jar, I'm literally just going to scoop out the whole peeled tomatoes and throw them in. Try and leave all the liquid behind and just get the tomatoes. They're wet enough and liquidy enough. So simple. All right, this is it. Whole peeled tomatoes in a Vitamix or blender, whatever you got. Turn it on, let it rip. All right. 15 seconds is all you need. Now you'll notice the color lightened up quite a bit. The only reason it lightened up is because I aerated it. I put a lot of air bubbles in here. I think this is, the perfect consistency. So yeah, this is a good consistency. You almost want to be able to see through it when it's on the pizza, but you see all the bubbles, those will go away. It'll get back to a nice deep red color. Now, the only thing you have to do is season up the taste more than you think. It depends on how salty the tomatoes are. So add it now, taste it a little bit, add more salt, or no more salt if it's fine. So that was the pizza sauce. So we've done the pizza dough, we've done the pizza sauce, get a whole milk mozzarella cheese, shred it, and you're good. I'm excited. But first things first, we gotta gather our ingredients and we gotta talk equipment. This is a Brio pizza cutter. You're gonna need something to cut the pizza, whatever you want. You're gonna need a cutting board. This is where the pizza will land and you will cut the pizza on this. You're gonna need a pizza peel. So this is the Brio one. I love it. It's lightweight, it's easy to use. Perfect length and width for the oven. I also like having a long metal spatula. You're gonna wanna rotate the pizza. As with all ovens, you kind of wanna rotate so things cook evenly. The backside might be a little bit hotter. Again, this is a fire. So the heat isn't exactly like a stove. Sometimes the back is hotter, sometimes the front is hotter. So I like rotating about halfway through, and this definitely helps. You're also gonna need fire gloves or hot mitts, but you want it coming down. That's just protection. This ring right here, that ring of metal, you're reaching in, hits you right here, burns. Get the long ones. They're not expensive. Brio sells them. Now that we've gathered our equipment, let's talk about our ingredients. I have made a whole bunch of pizza dough. I brought it out of the fridge. I've let it sit at room temperature for about an hour. This will make it easier to handle. It's not gonna be as cold. I can stretch it out. I have some bread flour. So I'm just going to use this to dust stuff to make sure that the dough doesn't stick. And then, of course, you're going to need your shredded mozzarella and your tomato sauce. I'd also mention you need a brush. This isn't for the sauce or the cheese. This is going to be later on. I've got a few other nifty ingredients. I got a fig jam that I mixed with a little bit of water. I'm going to brush it on kind of in place of tomato sauce, get some prosciutto, goat cheese, arugula. It's going to be fantastic. All right, so now that we've gathered our ingredients, we've got our equipment, and we know what we're doing, let's get cooking. So first things first, I've already started the fire. You kind of want to do that 30 to 40 minutes ahead of time. You want to get it down to embers before you put the pizza attachment on. Now with this, I suggest having 2 people do it. If you are going to take it off and it's hot, you absolutely need 2 people. This thing's big. This thing's going to last. I love it. That means, though, you got to be safe. Let's get this thing on. I have the little chimney here opened up. So these are smokeless. They got to heat up first and then they turn smokeless. So if it's not fully heated, you might get a little bit of smoke into the pizza oven. Keep the chimney open. I'm going to let it heat up. I'm probably going to put another log on. Let's make some pizzas. I get it. This is more of a weekend activity. There's something really cathartic about just cooking this way. So I'm watching the temp rise here. I'm just about 600 degrees. Let's start making pizza. We're going to do tomato sauce. We're going to do cheese. And we're just going to cook that off. And then we'll get into our fancy fig and arugula and whatnot. All right, we're cooking. We're at 850 degrees. Let's get cooking here. A little flour down. So I am not a pizza maker. I do not make pizza for a living. I do know that you need to flour the counter. And then I like using a rolling pin, but I'm afraid that people will yell at me. So what I sometimes do is I pretty much hold it like this and I just kind of pinch maybe 3/4 of the way up from the middle and just turn it and try and stretch it. And you can see it's getting a little bit bigger. And when it gets a little bit bigger, you can get your knuckles in and you can kind of stretch it this way. You know what? I'm going to use my rolling pin. Don't judge me. Just make sure it's nicely floured. And I like doing kind of like a 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Make sure both sides are floured. This is not going to be a giant pizza. This might be 14 inches. My oven's getting hot. I'm right at about 750 degrees. That's a little low. I want it to get a little hotter, so I'm going to close the chimney now. So it's going to trap a little bit of that heat. It's time to get the pizza peel. Put a little flour on this. Dust this up. You want flour on there so this thing slides off. Oh, perfect. Look at that. I like having a teeny edge over the side of the peel. And why I do that is because when I put in the pizza oven, I'm going to tip it. And I want this little edge that's hanging over just a teeny bit. It's going to catch on the pizza stone and it's going to help pull the pizza off. Beautiful. Not too much sauce. Spread it around. It's pretty thin. Perfect. When it comes to mozzarella, I like whole milk, low moisture. Comes in either a square or a cylinder. Shred it up yourself. I don't really like pre-shredded mozzarella. It's oftentimes coated in cornstarch and stuff that I don't necessarily want on my pizza. All right, let's get it in. All right, here we go. Right off, baby. Look, you see how the back is starting to bubble? We're getting bubbles around the crust. Our oven's at around 850 degrees. This is on the upper end. 700 to 900 is probably ideal. What are we at, the 30-second mark? Pizza's looking good. We're getting ready to rotate the back. It's starting to get a little bit dark. The safest and easiest way to rotate this pizza is just pull it completely out of the oven, rotate it, get it back in. Look at this. We're starting to get char. Don't worry. You want the char. Rotate it. That was like, there we go. Let's get it back in. I can't wait. I can. It's only like 20 more seconds. For safety, use your gloves. Oh, I think we're good. Let's get it out. Comes right off onto this Brio cutting board. Love this thing. Look at this. Look at this pizza. Let me get my cleaver here. Let's see whether we can get a nice crunch. Look at this. They designed it. It goes from edge to edge. I'm going to take a bite of this. I'm hungry. The chewy dough, that tomato sauce, it's not like overly processed. There's no ketchup. There's no crushed tomato-ness. It's just a bright tomato flavor. It's absolutely fantastic. It cooked just enough in that like 60-second, 90-second cook time. Let's make another. Let's go. Let's keep going. All right, let's do this fig one. Got another dough. If you can find fresh figs, you can put some fresh figs on it as well. Get them nice and toasty and roasty in there. Be fantastic. But I like this fig jam regardless of whether or not it is figs. I could not find figs. All right, so I got a little fig jam, a little bit of water. So maybe 2 tablespoons of fig jam, 2 teaspoons of water-ish. I'm just going to dollop some on. I'm going to use my pastry brush here. I go out from the center because that's how I kind of stretch the dough. Let's get our prosciutto going here. I think this is about 4 ounces of prosciutto. Goat cheese time. But I'm just going to do kind of big clumps here. Yeah, about 3 ounces. All right, let's get this in. Hey, look, it's starting to swell up. We're probably at the 30-second mark. I'm going to rotate it. Look at this. We're getting good browning. Let's get it back in another 30 seconds. I love this. Maybe I should just do this. Maybe I just open up a pizza restaurant. Babe, we're opening up a pizza restaurant. I don't think she heard me. All right, I think we're good. No overcooking. Let's get the arugula on top. It'll wilt a teeny bit. All right, here we go. Here's the pizza. Let's cut this one up. Oh, I have balsamic. Balsamic reduction is probably better, but I didn't make it, and I don't have it. The goat cheese is heated through. It has almost like that exterior where it started to brown, but then it just melts in your mouth. It's like a pillow. The salty prosciutto comes through, the grassy, spicy arugula, and then the fig jam just adds a touch of sweetness in the back. It's not overwhelming. That's a winner in my book. Thanks everybody for watching. That was pizzas I made with my brand new Brio pizza oven that sits on top of their wood-fired fire pit. I absolutely love it. It was a ton of fun to do this. If you like what you saw, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube. I'm also on Twitch, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. Thanks so much for tuning in. And don't forget, the best way to support this channel for free is just subscribe on YouTube. And I have a whole bunch of affiliate links down below. So if you like the stuff that I like and the stuff that I use, feel free to purchase it through the affiliate links, and I'll get a little bit of a kickback. And I appreciate you. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Take care.